DubLab. Hello, this is Transduction Signal on DubLab Radio. I'm your host, Trovarsi, along with Orly Gal. Orly's off gallivanting and playing gigs over in Europe, so I'm holding down the fort this month. But join us each month on DubLab Radio for my show, Transduction Signal. We'll be joined by a featured artist who will share a live performance, followed by a short breakdown, and we'll talk about their setup, their journey, how they got into the music, and all that good stuff. And this month, I have Lucas Marchal, artist named dc11. He's a Paris-based producer and live artist. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
No, I'm happy to be there.
Yeah, I've been following you. Like I had mentioned before, I can't remember where I saw you first, whether it was YouTube or Instagram, but I when I heard your music, I was just like, this guy is he's fucking good. Like I really like your stuff, and I'm like I definitely need to have him on the show. But yeah, before we get into chatting and getting into all your background and all that good stuff, I of course want to play your performance for everyone. Do you have anything that you want to say about it before I hit the play button?
Yeah, this is probably a small chunk of a usual set I would do. I try to go a bit quicker than usual, but this is my forte. I'm all about repetition, so I have a hard time squeezing a lot of stuff into 20 minutes. But yeah, this is like my typical sort of intro, and then I go through a couple patterns, and I just jam on my synth because nothing is pre-recorded on the synth side. So
okay.
It was fun. I recorded it one night after my daughter was asleep, and that's a small chunk of what I could hear me play live on the live set, basically.
Very cool. All right, then. With that being said, I'm going to say go ahead and mute. I'll mute you on this end, and let's get into it. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, incredible. Groovy, just what I expected from you. Like, yeah, no, I have a lot of questions for you, but no. Excellent, excellent set. Excellent.
Thanks a lot.
Before I get into all my, you're welcome. Before I get into, because all my questions, do you want to just kind of explain what it is that you were working with and just talk about your setup a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a tiny bit different than what I use live because I don't have like the usual Zone 92 mix at home. So this is basically my studio setup. So it's a bit more flexible, which is I usually multi-track at home. But for this, I just recorded like the stereo output. But the setup itself is exactly the same as what I use live. I have the Octatrack with samples, stems from my track, especially for the kick and the bass. So I just export stems like a week or two before a show, go through everything that I've done and just load a few new ones. Every show, there are a few that stays and a few that go, you know. So it's trial and error. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes
Right.
they work somewhere and sometimes they don't somewhere else. So sometimes I bring old ones, you know, and just remix my old tracks. It's fun. So the Octatrack basically is this a back synth of some sort that works with the kick and bass. And
I'm sorry, say that again. The Octatrack is
it's
a.
there's also like a sample of a synth sound or a pad or something like I can't really do with the modular, or an
Got it.
atmosphere, because that's usually ties up like the entire of the modular to do a drone, and you don't want to do that.
Right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, that's the Octatrack basically. I use it super simple, like a sample player, the dumbest use of an Octatrack you could find. Yeah, it plays sample in loops or one shot. And then I have here in the studio, it's the big 909, the RE909 from DinSync,
Did you
which I
build it?
love. No, I didn't.
Or. Okay.
I'm liable to stab myself in the eye with a solder iron. So I luckily find someone who sold it secondhand in Paris. So I just bought it.
Nice, nice.
A few things don't work actually. The rim shot is busted. I need to have a proper tech look at it one day, but I can't not use it, so it's a bit hard.
Right.
But I also bought like the small TB09 or TR09 from Roland, the boutique one, which
Oh,
I
like the
use.
boutique, the little boutique
Yeah,
one, right? Okay.
yeah. When I have to take the plane for a gig or it's a bit, I don't want to pack too much. I just take the small one basically. I occasionally bring the bigger one to bigger gigs or when it's local in Paris, but it's mostly for me because no one can tell the difference anyway.
Right.
So
Do you like do you use the channels like individual outs, or do you just put all of the 909, for example, on one track on your mixer?
in a live set, I just use the stereo out in one channel of the Zone, but at home I have like 5 outputs, like cymbal, hats, kick, and I believe clap. The one I use the most are on single channels, and the toms and snare are like on the mono output. And
Got it.
and of course, then there's the 6U modular with a revolving cast of module. Every time I think I find a definitive lineup, it changes again. But
Sounds
so
about right.
far, yeah, yeah, you know the drill.
Yeah.
But this is this one with the 2 pretty big synth voice, the Atlantis and the Swayman SM1, which is one of the latest, probably craziest purchase. I didn't want to use it as first because it's quite big, but now I mean, I used it in every track I've made in the studio, so I said, let's try it live, and I really enjoy it. So, and actually, I think synth voice, I am quite in love with synth voice, and live they are especially practical because it's just a lot of things are normal. You need less cable, and I mean, these 2 particular ones sound super good. So yeah, this is a good setup for me now, but it's gonna
Nice.
change probably. And then and then when I play live, I also bring a space pedal from Eventide, which I put at the end of the mixer. But here,
Okay.
since it's in the studio, I have the Ensoniq DP4 and the Eventide Eclipse as sends, so I just use that. So it's a bit different, but not crazily different.
Got
So
it.
yeah, that's the setup in a nutshell. It's usually these three things: a drum machine, the Octatrack, and the modular.
Do you take the OB6 out as well, or is
No,
that
no,
just
no.
studio?
Yeah, it's just for the studio. It's quite big, and I don't even have a MIDI sequencer actually, so I can't really play it live.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
useless with keys, so yeah, I usually sequence it with a VST
Okay.
when I'm at home, or sometimes the Dark Time, the little analog sequencer which does MIDI, which is fun. But I will bring that live, and I already have too much to do, so no, the OB6 so far has been strictly studio.
Got it. Yeah, no, I love the OB6. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
So do you
over
find
Mono
that you
live. They
sample
use
it?
one. Oh yeah, yeah. We have
Who
a
you?
few. This UK band over Mono. They're quite huge right now. They have big hits. It's not really techno. It's like UK based music, but they use the OB6 live
Oh,
for
okay.
bass,
Okay.
and it's insane. um, so, but I do have samples from the OB6, but mainly like pads. I used to have like more recognizable synth riff, but I try to avoid these now on the Octatrack because since it's a loop, it quickly gets boring, I think. So I prefer to have like less recognizable stuff as synth, as a backup synth on the Octatrack, because it can sustain like scrutiny longer maybe than like a very defined melodic loop, or not melodic because given the style I make, it's not very accurate. But yeah,
But
not
something a
like a
little more
proper synth bar.
repetitive-y. Got it.
Yeah, something like usually pads.
Okay. So wait, you said kicks in that are in your Octatrack as well. So you use the
Mhm.
909 the kick? Do you layer it or do you just kind of?
Not really. It depends. I mean, 90% of the shows I do, it's usually peak time. I mean, between DJs who have like insanely mastered tracks. So yeah, I use the kick from usually I export the kicks and bass from my tracks, which are already not mastered, but they're louder than what comes out of the 909 straight, of course. So so yeah, that's usually what I do. But sometimes when I get to play an opening, I just load the bass lines and I use the kick from the 909. And honestly, the
Okay.
kick from the 909 sounds amazing. It's just different, you know. You're not going to get the same boom as a hugely produced kick, of course, but
Right, right.
it,
But
it it does kill on a good sound system still.
nice. Yeah. Do you run it through like, do you tend to like split it out to run like any distortion or you're just like, screw it? Like, this is just, I'm using the
And
909.
screw
It's
it.
going to be raw.
Yeah, it's going to be raw.
Nice.
Yeah,
So, oh,
I
go
like it
ahead.
well.
Sorry.
The 909 sounds. I mean, on a good sound system, of course, some distortion adds a little bit, but the toms especially, I use the toms a lot live to layer with the kicks, and the low tom is actually quite lower than the kick, and you can really feel it when you bring it on a big sound system. So I like to have the rolling toms on top of the bass line I have. Like in the studio
Nice.
setting, in the headphones, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but in a club, it does.
Right. I feel like with Toms, they add that extra help with the groove, right? Like give that
They
extra
do, yeah.
little bounce to it. Yeah.
Mm.
No, it sounded great. All right, some more tech questions before we get into all the musical background. So, like, so you had the Schwayman and then the Atlantic. So you had the two sequencers. Is it the Metropolix and Multistage? Is that, did I see that
Yeah,
right?
it's
Okay,
actually old. It's the Metropolis, the old one.
nice.
I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm a bit against screens, and I bought it recently, actually, the Metropolis. I had it a super long time ago. I was hesitating between the Voltage multistage and the Metropolis as my very first sequencer. So I'm talking like almost 10 years ago now. And so I went with the Metropolis and sold it to buy the Voltage multistage, which is the one I still have, which is probably my favorite sequencer. But yeah, recently I was wanting to get another sequencer for another voice, and basically my brain only responds to step sequences. And but I wanted something slightly different than the Voltage multistage, which I know so well. So I rebought the Metropolis, and they're quite cheap right now since the Metropolis came out.
Right.
And I didn't feel like I needed the second channel, and especially for live sets, you know, it's just I do very minor tweaks, and the 2 aux are like sufficient for me. And it's a very fun machine, very fun sequencer, the Metropolis, the old one. I recommend it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's very immediate with the sliders and then being able to kind of change up the rhythm of the steps. So when you're doing that, so I noticed like in your set you were kind of tweaking things. Do you do that on the fly, like throughout the night, like just, and do you tune your oscillators? That's the other question.
I don't. That's a often recurring question. I absolutely never tune my oscillator. I'm probably incapable of tuning them. I know how to make them beat, but I don't care.
Right.
And I usually I will try to have like a sound that I think is good to try. If I have some time at a sound check, try to find a good basic sound. But that's about it. And
to kind of get the two to sit together, sort of thing, just so they don't.
Yeah, of course. But I feel like with the kind of clangy FME sound I do, it's not that huge of a deal. And I also like that if it's not exactly right, you try to make it right live while it's out on the sound system. It adds a bit of something that I like. Like it's like, you know, a DJ spinning the vinyls to make it bounce back into the beat, and I feel like it's my way of trying to tune it live, and it can be fun. It can actually
like giving
even
it that
be fun
raw
to abuse
energy.
it. Yeah. Like just take the tuning of the oscillator and just go crazy. You know, if you do a mistake, just accentuate it until it sounds like something premeditated.
Right, put some reverb on it or something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
motto.
no, it sounded great. Yeah. I feel like there was one other. I think you answered all of them really, like my tech side of questions. But I noticed like when you were filtering, like, you know, when you kind of pull the low end out, were you doing it from the Octatrack, or were you doing it from because you're multi-tracking?
I'm such a basic Octatrack user that I almost never use the slider. I don't know. The only use I have for it is to indeed low pass stuff, but I'm quite used. I have put like a basic Ableton EQ3 on the master, which I have linked to like a something on my keyboard, like P or something. And so when I hit P, it just cuts the bass. So that's my makeshift zone. Off. Yeah, it's extremely basic, but it works more or less. But yeah, I do that at home.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's how I cut bass. I just press the P button.
Nice. So then, like, that takes the duty of the zone when you're actually, like, when you're playing out. You don't do that on the Octatrack. I got it. Okay, so you use the filters and things like that.
So yeah, the live I will use the EQs of the zone, but lightly. Like, I'm not a DJ, and I have a lot of other stuff, like, I guess a bit more important to do, so I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to the zone. So I still have like a low high pass usually set up on the slider just as a backup in case something doesn't work on the zone. But yeah, usually the zone EQ sound 100 times better than anything I can set up on the Octatrack. So I much prefer. It sounds good. Is
Yeah, the filters on it I think are incredible. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
use the
and you get
zone
the option
too.
to filter everything with the filters, but also just to do the channel of the octatrack, for example, and then you still have like the toms of the 909, which are so you get options, which is
Nice. Yeah, no, I like how it has the little switches too, so you can
yeah,
decide what
definitely.
channel you want to filter
Hmm.
and all that stuff. Did you find that using a DJ mixer as opposed to like a modular mixer or anything like that, or even summing to the octatrack, do you feel like the DJ mixer gives you like that extra push of sound, like, you know what I mean? Like that analog kind of gluing it
Mm,
together, or
I
is it more
mean,
for just
it's
tech? Yeah.
it stems more from the fact that every club has a zone 92 or 96. So I just adapted myself to this with the right cables, but that's it. In terms of punch, I mean, they sure have a sound which I like, and I think it's nice. But I'm not sure. I don't hear such. I mean, from club to clubs, the sound is so different that I wouldn't be able to compare. But yeah, I mean, they definitely not degrade the sound, that's for sure. And I'm a bit of a snob with such things, so I wouldn't like to sum my modular into the track, for example, because I think the conversion isn't that fantastic. So uh, I think the Octatrack is insanely practical for live, but it sounds a bit dull and flat and no dynamics at all. So I mean, I love it when I play live, but basically in my studio, I never use it. Uh, so
Got
it's
it.
a very good tool, but I wouldn't sum my modular through it.
Right. No, I mean, I use, like different mixers. Like I've used the WMD, I've
Mm.
used the Octatrack and things like that. But a friend of mine, Maydan, another live artist, she was like, use a DJ mixer. And yeah, it practically and sound wise, it just sounds better. And it's
Yeah, I
much easier
mean,
to just put it on your rider, and
yeah, you don't
show
have to
up.
buy one. I mean, I certainly have no
Yeah.
use for one at home, so I didn't buy one. And I mean, after 2 gigs, you get used to it. You know where to plug the pedal for an FX, and that's it.
Right,
So
right.
it's easier, just way easier.
Yeah. And I feel like yeah, like you have a little bit more control of the volume too, like in sound
Yeah.
check. So, like you're saying, that challenges of, have you had any, what have been the challenges, I guess? Like, so let's get into some other things. Like when you're playing live and you're playing in between DJs, do you find that using that mixer kind of alleviate, like takes away some of the challenges, like master tracks versus, like the raw live sound?
Mm. Never really felt that my sound was so much weaker than like a DJ set before or after. The DJ set probably sounds more like coherent and massive in a way, but they do in good clubs. They do a good job of like having everyone during the night sounding more or less the same good. They have limited compressors. Even if you don't have them in your rack, it sounds usually they can polish your stuff a bit. Um,
Right, right. EQ it and have different settings for you.
yeah, and but I really like to have like a proper sound check when possible, and also it's I mean, in good clubs it's usually easy as well, but to have my own mixer so I don't have to plug stuff and remember the settings. So to have two complete different setups when the booth is big enough, that's that's a luxury which you get accustomed to quite quickly.
So true, so true. Yeah, it's way, you don't want to be, gearing up to play and then having to worry about like, oh, now you have to patch all the
Mm.
channels and ascend and stuff like that.
I've done
So,
it a lot
okay,
of times though, but yeah,
yeah, it's a little stressful.
yeah, it's,
So, I know you mentioned earlier that you've been using modular for about 10 years. What, let's kind of back up and kind of rewind a little bit and go into your history. Were you were you making music before you got into modular, or was that your dive into making music?
No, yeah, I, I, I think this year marks the like 10 years I've been making music. I didn't start straight away with modular. I bought an OP1 first, actually, but
Okay,
then
okay.
I very quickly went to like maybe Modular 101 because we have a store in Paris and they organized like a little presentation about modular. I thought it was interesting, but I felt like it wasn't exactly for me. But then I bought a Mother 32 maybe 2 weeks after, and then
The
it
gateway.
goes. Yeah. It's been the gateway for a lot of people, I guess. But then then I quickly bought like a complex oscillator from Verbos, bass, a sequencer, and then maybe a year after I bought that OP1, I was already up to the neck in modular. So I really started to learn about synthesis and make music and what I wanted to do with music with modular more than the OP1, which the OP1 it's like baby steps. I was making ambient loops mostly, but before
Okay.
prior to that, I had never ever done music. I can't play any instrument, so I didn't. And when I discovered that you could make music like with sequences such as step sequences, that really light something in my brain. This is fun. This I understand, and this I can work with.
Right. That's the beauty of modular, really. It's just giving everybody that opportunity, like if you don't play like a traditional, quote, traditional instrument like
Mm.
piano or no theory, but you can still have an ear, like what you like, right? Like if you're into techno or whatever genre, like you can use your ear and learn and compare, which is very liberating, I think, for people.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
and
cool.
if you trust your taste and try to at first you obviously try to copy the sound you like, and but then little by little you discover your sound, discover more about how to reach that too. So I guess it's the same for everyone. There's a few milestones. Like I know that when I bought a Digitact, it felt like, yeah, this is much closer to what I want to do. Just because in terms of because when you want to start to make techno, you're like, okay, but like you don't even know you need a bass line or a rumble or whatever, and you don't even when you
Right.
know you need one, you don't know how to do it. So it's a long journey, but it's fun.
Yes, yeah. Definitely. I'm sure you had those like aha moments. I remember starting modular and, it's like, oh, a little overwhelming. You're trying to figure out like, what's doing what. And then you feel the click. You know what I mean? You sense the click. You're
Mm,
like, oh, it's like clicking in. You're like getting it now.
yeah, definitely.
So when you got into modular, then is that sort of when did you gravitate towards techno then, or were you still making ambient music with
Um,
it?
at first, I was still doing like tangent dream stuff like this, like sending stuff into an endless looping delay and having a lot of fun.
Nice.
Just because of the sheer novelty of it, because it's still quite amazing to just wiggle knobs and have fun. But yeah, little by little, I bought a Tans mouse, so I produce beats. So
You have a
Tans
sample
mouse
pack
is
for that too, right?
yeah,
I bought
I
that
did.
sample pack. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
great sample
thank you.
pack. I'll leave a link in the description if people want to check out your sample pack. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's great.
I sold that original Tens mouse to a friend, and but then I missed it and rebought it again because it's a fun drum machine. It's voiced like a 909, but it's a bit different and quirky in a way, but nice. But then yeah, I sold that and bought a Digitact, and then I was already focused on making techno. Uh,
Okay.
but then uh, you I finally managed to get closer to what could be called like a decent or proper techno, but still doesn't exactly the techno I liked. That's the techno I could do at that time. So it was a bit
Right.
harsh and industrial, maybe a bit too much for my actual tastes. But
Okay.
little by little, I learned to tone it down and go deeper, more. I was super heavily influenced by Mike Parker at first. Still love his stuff, but more into the super minimal. And so the more I learned to strip down and just let the sound breathe a bit. But it takes a lot of time to get that, because you need also confidence to like to put a track like Mike Parker with like 2 elements, but it sounds incredible. It takes a lot of
Right.
confidence and experience, which
So
I
who
didn't
else are
have.
your in? Right. Sorry. So
Mm.
who else influences you? What are some of your other influences?
I mean, the core ones would be like Planetary System, Luke Slater. um, Sandwell District was really the first thing that got me into techno, because I come from like punk, hardcore, doom, stuff like this, more guitar
Okay.
music. And Sandwell District had the same imagery with the, if you look at the records, it kind of looks like hardcore punk records. It's same visuals maybe, and even the atmospheres are super dark. So yeah, I easily got into it, and then uh, it's a good entry point, because it's so good even today. It's like there's still some of the best albums
A
or EPs
classic.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Regis, the classics like this were the entry point, and the loopy stuff, which I still really love. And those would be my influence. Today, I also like a lot of, young producer who do a lot of stuff. Recently, I've been really loving Troy and Orb and Deka,
Okay.
stuff like
Okay.
this. So
Okay.
stuff that's heavy, atmospheric, but also simple and loopy. I'm always in between, like, let's do a sleep archive loop, like super basic, ultra repetitive for 6 minutes. And sometimes I feel like, I need to add more atmosphere and go deeper. And so I'm always oscillating between the two. And it's a bit hard to reconcile these two aspects. Sometimes I do a track like this, sometimes I do a track like that. And I really
Right.
love those producers who can do like punchy, powerful tracks, but still with atmospherics and with kind of deep space element to it.
Yeah, I feel like with the atmosphere, it really helps glue stuff together too, especially when you're
Hmm.
using a lot of hardware. It just kind of pulls things together, I think, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you maybe check out Jan Cook? Have you heard of Jan Cook?
Yeah. It's from Ukraine, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, I like his
Yeah, I
stuff
love his
too.
stuff. Very good.
So, what is your favorite piece of gear right now then? I know you're
Mm,
changing. It's like the nature of the of modular, right? Like the buying and selling
yes.
and rebuying.
Mhm. Yes. Well, it's I would say the Swayman SM1. It better be
Okay.
given the price tag, but yeah, I I actually I didn't need it. I already had the Atlantis. I had like a full purpose system, so I really didn't need another synth voice. But I don't know. I had 2 gig in a row, and I said like, let's splurge. And I've been wanting it forever. And these modules, they don't really come out every day, so it's
Yeah.
now or never. And also, a friend of mine bought it, so I thought like, I need one. There's no way he can have it, and I can't. So I bought it, and the bastard even sent me the link, like they're available. So it's just your text just got me like put me 2K in debt. But
Right.
yeah,
That's
so
great.
I I bought it, but I didn't expect it to love it as much as I do. I mean, I love the Atlantis, but it's like head and shoulders above. It's so good, and everything is so dialed. Like the envelopes are incredible. The filter is incredible. You have a lot of options. It's super easy to route stuff. You have 2 LFOs. So yeah, I really like it. Really, really like it.
Yeah, no,
And
is it based on the SH-101 a little bit? Like,
I don't think so.
or
No,
no?
it's just like a no. It's just a full synth from Swayman. Maybe it's like a modular version of S4,
No, I mean the Atlantic. Sorry.
S1. Oh, the Atlantis. Oh, the Atlantis
Yeah,
is based on the SH-101. Yes.
SH-101. Got it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
you
for
were
sure.
talking about the envelopes on the Schwayman. I think I
Yes, but the envelopes
misheard
on
you.
the Atlantis are also really good. So, but different.
Yeah.
It's yeah. You have 2 on the Swayman, which makes a big difference.
Nice. Yeah, no, they just have a interesting sound. Like I have the filter, the big
Oh yeah,
QMMF4. That's the only Schwayman that I have, but that
yeah.
filter isn't, yeah. It's
A
just
friend of mine
it's a
has it, and we've played live a few times together. And I didn't have the SM1 at the time, and I was in awe of the sound. Like especially in a sound system, it's just because this is the kind of module that's like yeah 4 filters. And then you look at the price tag and you're like yeah, but then he runs like the entirety of the modular through it, and everything sounds 100 times better because of it. And he has so much control over everything in his modular case. So in the live situation, it's really big.
yeah, no, it does sound really good. Does he use it like a self, you know how you can have like a self
Yeah,
oscillating? Okay.
yeah, he does use one of the voice as an oscillator.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So, um, we're we're almost at the top of the hour. We have some time, so I do want to ask you a question I ask everyone, which is, what do you recommend to people if they are just getting into modular? Like they're getting ready to buy their, their first modules, so they're kind of looking and thinking, or just
Hmm.
getting into playing live, like that's their goal. What's some advice
Mm,
you would give to someone?
as for modular, I would probably uh, go for like a semi-modular at first. There's so many good ones right now. Like the DFAM is a really great options. The make noise, whatever. I mean, there's a lot to try, and it's a lot less expensive than going the full modular route at first. So
Mm-hmm.
that would probably be uh, my advice. But also have a nice step sequencer like the no control or even dark time, stuff like this for techno especially. It's incredibly fun and easily rewarding if you like repetition. uh, and for playing live, the the main thing is to just play a lot at home and know what you're working with, your toys, your tools well. And it's hard to be confident at first, but just practice a few moves, how to sustain attention, because you have quite a bit of leeway live. I think with people are tolerant, uh,
Right.
and if you get like a good kick and bass going, and you move the decay of the hats, you have 10 minutes in front of you, so you can you can improvise. So just remember to take your time and have fun. That's basically the most important thing. But yeah, take your time. Just
Right.
don't feel like you need to bring something in and out every 5 seconds. Uh,
Yeah.
that's too stressful.
I used to time myself, like in between, like just because you get nervous, and when I first started playing live, like you your adrenaline gets pumping, right? And or at home you're jamming, so it's like I would time it just so I would start to like, okay, like relax, and like you said, taking my time and letting it breathe, as opposed to like
Hmm.
transition.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really good advice.
But,
So one more question then. When you are writing, what do you typically start with? What do you typically start with?
I would probably start with the sequence, just maybe with a bare kick drum to give it like a, so I know where the sequence seats. But yeah, usually I'll try to find a good synth sequence that gets playing first. If I add a kick and hat and I feel like this might lead somewhere, then yeah, that's usually where I start with. I'm not going to start with a like a kick rumble or bass line. It's just it's no fun. So, and I feel like the 909 kick is, I love it. So it's a bass anyway. So I can just find the fun stuff first, the
Nice.
synth first.
Because then it like invokes like maybe like a feeling or something, right?
Yeah,
Where
I
you're
mean,
just
you
like, oh,
just
I
need
want
to
to add this
find
or add that.
exactly. You just need to find something that gets you going and gives you inspiration. It doesn't need to be there at the end, but it needs to be the thing that makes you start and makes you believe in that loop and want to finish it.
But yes, yeah, definitely a feeling. It's interesting when people talk about whether they want to start with like full on percussion. Like some people will start, and then they add their bass or their leads and things like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
not. I
that
mean, also because my percussions is the 909, so I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel. I like the basic 909 sequence, so I like the simple, just supporting role, but always reliable. So yeah, I'm not gonna. I usually not don't start with a beat because it's
nice.
not where I'm not gonna innovate anyway. But that's not where I can bring anything new.
Right, right. So then you typically add when you stick with the 909 and then do like a kick that you actually make like in the box, but otherwise is that your main, do you find that you're adding extra percussion like from other
I mean, the
modules? I mean,
modular can
especially in the
be
studio.
percussive, yeah. Yeah, the modular can definitely have. I don't tailor sounds to be specifically percussive, but they sometimes end up as percussions. I also have a syncussion, which
Oh yeah.
is more or less like a drum synth. So I do bring percussions from this, but also use it like a synth as well.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, the main backbone of the percussion is going to be the 909 with effects, but not effects that change drastically the tone, just like salt and pepper. And yeah, I do bring sometimes from, if I feel like I need to have a little LPG perk, then I'm gonna make it with the modular. But um, it's I mean, it's not guaranteed if I feel like it.
Right, like if you're feeling it for the moment. So do you have any do you have any gigs or anything coming up or any releases that you want to shout out? We're at the
Uh,
top of the hour just to let people know.
Yeah, I have a few gigs. I mean, they're in Europe. I have a gig in Spain, a few in France coming up in October and November. Also, a gig where we play five of us with friends, a bit like Store if you want.
I
So
saw
that's going to
that
be
your
fun.
YouTube. That looked
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
We're
I
going to
was like, I
do
want to.
one again in November. It's going to be filmed, I think, again. So it's going to be nice. And as for releases, I have a few vinyls coming. So I have a solo EP early 2025 and a couple tracks on compilation, which I'm stoked about. So that's 3 records in total. So it's nice to finally have some music on once out.
Nice. I saw that you had the release back in January, Bandcamp, and I will
Mhm.
definitely drop that link so people can go and check that out. Are you releasing it on Bandcamp or are you releasing with another label or just so
Uh,
people
all,
know
all
where to
the
look?
ones that are coming up are on other labels. I have a
Okay.
label with a friends called Data Roaming Records, but
Okay.
we've been so busy that it's been a bit dormant. We still have we stopped at release 9. We need to go to number 10, but it's gonna wake up someday, but not right now. We don't have the
Got it.
time.
All right. So I'll definitely leave your Linktree link then so everyone will have access to all your links. You have a Patreon as well. I'll put that on there too. But I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, I've been following you for quite some time, and I really enjoyed listening to your music and find it very inspiring. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to chat with you, and my pleasure. So
thank you. And I want to say thank you to all our listeners. And I am Trovarsi, and this is Transduction Signal on DubLab Radio.